You're on.
Good morning. Monday, January 14th, Tufton Borough Board of Selectmen's meeting. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move on, I would like to recognize that it's Selectman Wood's birthday today. So let's all sing him happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lord. Happy birthday to you. All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Many more,
I'll drink to that.
but not at Selectmen's meeting.
No.
They used to do that. Some used to meet at the Wolf Berlin.
That's what I understand, down in the Wolf Tavern, yeah.
Yeah, for that.
Yeah.
They're doing that tradition.
And I can remember when they used to meet at different guys' houses until a couple fights broke out.
All right.
That's history.
Do we have any public input before we move on to the rest of the agenda? All right. Let's move on to review and approval of minutes. Last Monday's regular session, January 7th.
I'm all set.
Yeah. I'll move that we accept them as written.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And then non-public from January 7th.
8:30.
Yes, 8:35.
I'll move we accept them as written.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Selectmen's work session on Friday, January 11th.
I have no issues.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the,
This is the public work session that enabled the two non-public sessions, okay?
so I'll move we accept them as written.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The first non-public from the 11th, which is the 8:30 a.m. meeting.
Is that this one?
8:30, yes.
I just have one question on them.
Yeah.
These figures here, I kept asking what that was in annual salary because that's what we budget for.
Yeah.
And
But
is it appropriate to have them included here, or how do you want to handle that, Mr. Chairman?
well, I think you can take the information here and get to an annual salary.
Okay.
So I think we're
So we're gonna do a salary review in February of next year, is that the plan?
yes,
Is there
yes,
some
at the 1 year anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll move
think
we
that's-
accept them as written.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, and then the non-public at 9:20 a.m.
I'll move we accept them as recorded.
Karen, could I ask you to go back to non-public January 11th, the 8:30?
She doesn't have that.
Yeah, I don't have
Okay, whereabouts does it say that I moved that it be sealed?
That's in the public section.
Okay,
Yeah.
sometimes I like it added here just so it's a matter of a complete record, so when people
I'm
go to
showing this
review.
is sealed.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to,
Yep. Yep.
you know,
Yep.
thank you.
All right, so back to the 9:20.
I have no issues.
All right, so you moved,
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. We're zipping right along. Okay.
Christie's hiding us.
Oh, she is here.
Yeah.
Come on down, Christy, good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Happy New Year.
I'm here.
Is this your travel week?
My travel week. No.
No? Okay, that's good.
week? Thanks, Christine. You're welcome. Okay, so, at the end of the year here, considerably up over last year, and the year before that, and the year before that. All good trends. I think of note to mention are the fact that we are still having some issues with our genealogical databases, but we're a lot more on target this year than we were last year for sure. And I'm fairly confident that the numbers we have are good here. They are confirmed by the state library. Let's see.
And state computer services have been ironed out, or?
No, not yet. We still don't have a new ILL system. We're still doing it by email and phone, the old way, but it's working.
Yes.
In terms of materials added and deleted from the collection, we added 1,896 items and we deleted 1,470. Therefore, it's a net gain over the year of 341 items. So we're managing with the shelf space that we have at the moment. There were a total of 304 uses of the meeting room between public use and library meetings and programs. We had an estimated 20,661 library visits in 2018, and we were again a net lender in interlibrary loan. We borrowed 860 items from other libraries for our patrons, and we loaned 1,766 items to other libraries for their patrons. Let's see what else. Interlibrary loan, being a net lender, is one indicator of a really strong collection. Another one is circulating the equivalent of your collection, and our total collection is 33,000, and we circulated nearly 41,000 items last year. So we're in good shape as far as all of that goes. So
you're extrapolating the visits by.
Yeah, that's how we do it. That's the only way to do it unless you have a door counter, which costs like thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's how we're told to do it by the state, so yeah.
So even though somebody might take out multiple DVDs, each DVD is counted as one visit?
No.
I mean, that's
No,
how-
no. How we
that's
count visits is for 3 weeks, 3 weeks a year, 1 week in April, 1 week in July, and 1 week in October. We count everyone who comes through the door
Okay.
all week long. And those are the numbers that you see at the bottom here. In April it was 346, in July it was 473, in October it was 373. We add those up, divide by 3, and multiply times 52, and that's how we get our estimated visits.
Okay.
And the methodology has been the same every year, so
Yes.
it's consistent.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and we try and make it the same week, and as the state library recommends, you're not supposed to deliberately put it in a week where there's where you know there's going to be a whole lot more going on than normal. So we,
So it's not like TV and ratings week where you put all these
Right.
programs to bring in
No,
extra.
no, we don't
choose
announce it in advance.
Yeah.
We don't do that. Let's see, we just got the year-end figures for the capital reserve fund last week, and it was up about $1,300 by the end of the year, so that means we're now down to about $330,000 of what remains to be raised, so we keep moving in the right direction.
Work in progress.
Yeah. The trustees last week at their meeting set 2 public meetings to talk about the project, both on Saturdays at 10 o'clock. The first one on February 9th, and the second one on March 2nd. Speaking of building projects, we have been cooperating with Wolfboro while they're closed. We're taking their interlibrary loan business. We're acting as their pickup and drop off spot while they're closed. And I've talked with Helen Gallagher about the possibility of some future cooperation, either with loans or I'm not sure what, we'll have to keep talking about that. But it's a pleasure to be able to help out, and I know that we can expect the same kind of cooperation when our project gets going.
I imagine in a way these are fun times.
Yes.
A lot of work, but they're fun times.
Yes, yeah.
What the future
Yep, you're right.
holds.
You are correct.
So, we get on here to income. It says donations, 686,762,
Mm-hmm.
and then allocated to building fund.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an additional 676?
No, it's not additional.
Okay,
That's just what we added in 2018.
okay,
That was mostly the result of our fundraising
right.
efforts.
So, what happened to the other $9,000? Guess that would be my question.
What do you mean?
Well,
Well, yeah.
it's all broken out here, okay? If you look at the 686 and the other
Yeah.
income, and then you got where it goes. 7,000 to collection, 3,000 to program, 800 to supplies,
So it's broken out as other,
3,000 to other,
right?
and 677,000 to the building fund. So,
And total income matches total allocated.
Right.
That shouldn't
I got
actually
that
say
part.
other, it should say,
I got that part, that the books are balanced. I'm
Yes.
just trying to figure
Yeah.
out where the money's going other than into the building.
yeah, you can,
Yeah.
it's, every month you can
So-
see where everything goes.
so it goes to collection, programs,
Yeah.
supplies, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
as well.
and so it shows where our income comes from out-of-town patron fees or fines, which we don't actually charge, those are donations, book sales, printer, copier, fax, and patron donations,
Okay.
which are not all for the building fund.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent job.
Any other questions?
So we have 2 opportunities for people to sit with the trustees and ask all the questions they want, other
Yes.
than walking into the library or seeking out a trustee, right?
That's right.
And for people that haven't been engaged with the capital campaign so far but want to make a contribution, are we going to have additional ways for them to?
Yes, we are. The trustees are working on sending out a general fundraising letter that will go to everyone
Great.
Who hasn't already made a pledge or a gift.
Super.
If I can manage to weed all of them out successfully. And also, oh, this is so cool. We got donations from both grandchildren of Hattie Hersey, who was the Tufton Borough librarian
Yes.
from 1922 to 1952. She lived in
Bill
Stevens'
Stevens,
house. And Charles Brown, he lives in Ashland, and he came in last year to do some, he wanted some help with family research, and we were able to help him out. And he gave me a picture of Hattie, and that's now on my desktop. It's my screensaver. She's my idol, and a picture of the house, and then his sister Joyce, who lives in Worcester, also sent a donation to the building fund, and with her recollections of the house, that she hadn't known that her grandmother actually worked to get the library budget raised, which she did. And she talked about how there were 2 wells that served that house, one that the family used to bring in buckets, and the other one that was gravity fed from higher up. so they had running water. She put it in quotes, running water, most of the time. It was just really, it's so nice to have. I feel like there's a, sort of historical connection that's kind of special.
It would be neat if there was a place to have like kind of a collage of this stuff up on the wall, the recollections in these pictures and stuff, little snippet of little vignettes from
Well,
the
we are
library's
going to have a
history.
New Hampshire history room. Hopefully there'll be someplace to
Yeah.
display all of these things. In the meantime, I'll tell you this story, and I just thought it was really cool.
Great.
That's my song for this
What was her
one.
last name again?
Hersey.
Hersey.
Hersey. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Hattie Hersey. Yeah.
I can remember when the library was in the back half of the Women Workers Hall.
Yeah.
I think I had an extra county map from the 1870s. I'll look in my closet. Throw that in.
Okay, thank you. You're wonderful.
Thank you.
Christie?
Yeah.
Mr. Parsons?
No building permits.
Morning.
Happy
New Year, sir.
Are your salesmen all asleep?
2 building permits this year.
Oh.
Well, anyway, it's gonna go last year. Okay, so last year I brought in $41,987. 18 new homes with a value of approximately 11.5 million. And total building costs were approximately 13.9 million. We had 125 building permits, 110 electrical permits, 55 plumbing permits, 109 gas permits, 16 certificates of occupancy, and I did 483 inspections. This year we have 2 building permits so far, and I've done 28 inspections.
And are you expecting a slowdown in building permits?
I have no idea.
Because I'm looking at our revenue projection that we've been given this morning, and it's 33,000, which is $8,000 less than last year.
Right, but I don't remember what the year before was, so.
Yeah, I know it goes up and
No,
down.
that's right, the year before last was 37 total. So
Yeah, so, it's-
always estimate conservatively,
We don't know.
and then, I'm not surprised.
See if we get you on television. Financial reporting.
I'd like to bring up a subject that, in addition to this.
You have anything else you want to report before?
just an issue I was dealing with yesterday, and I think you got a copy of the email, so.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So
And
that-
did Jack's dealing with the interior doors?
I am, yeah,
Yeah.
and they've already been here to measure and all that, so it's in the process.
Good.
I'd like to have the board ask Jack to assign a number to driveway permits and give us a copy like he does the building permits, just so
They
we
do.
know.
The problem is they don't get them approved until the project's done, because Jim has to do a final inspection. When the driveway's done, that's when I issue the number in the permit. I can't do it ahead of time if they're not built correctly, so.
I was gonna ask him to follow up.
So what's the,
The process is someone applies for a building permit.
right,
I then give it to Jim. He goes out and looks at where they want to put it. He puts notes on there what he wants, whether it's a culvert or no culvert need and all that. And then the project moves on. A lot of times it's temporary. And then by the time they're ready to move in, he goes back and looks to make sure they built it the way he wants it. And then I issue a number and a driveway permit. That's the only way I can really do it. I can't issue a driveway permit if it's not built yet.
so what's the check? Is it part of the occupancy permit?
He goes back and makes sure that they built the driveway.
Well, let's
the way
say they
he
didn't.
wrote. They didn't, then they would have to fix it before they would get the occupancy permit.
Okay, so it's tied to the
So
occupancy.
Yeah,
you
more or
have to
less,
have
yeah.
an approved driveway permit before you issue the certificate of occupancy.
Right, and a lot of times Jim doesn't get it back to me, but he'll call me and say, yeah, that one's fine. And then I issue it, and then I get the permit, I put it in the file.
I'd like to have, as early as possible, the selectmen have a, just like when someone comes in for a building permit, he fills it out and leaves them in a blue folder. It educates, I think it educates us where the activity is. It also allows us to say, gee, it's been 3 months, what's the status of this driveway?
Some of those get extended way out, depending upon the
That's right.
pace of building and that sort of thing, right?
You know, a lot of times they don't do the final grading and all that, but they pave it, and they don't pave it till the end. So,
Right.
and we don't require it have to be paved. If it's on a state road, they have to put
And are
apron in.
we limiting, I mean, if I've got 1,000 feet of frontage, can I put 2 driveways in?
It's totally up to Jim.
So those things are only up to Jim.
Correct. I can't do
Well-
that. I mean, the state determines based on,
On state highways.
correct, that's totally different. Yeah, he doesn't do any of those. So. And I don't even issue a permit for those because the state does.
Yeah.
Right.
And I believe we follow the state guidelines in terms of,
Speed,
in terms of
Sight
sight lines and
I
that
couldn't
sort
have
of
to
thing.
ask Jim. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't believe so,
I don't think so either.
based on where I've seen some.
Yeah. Well, we can have a talk with Jim
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
We wanna
We can.
change it.
So but back to your question, you're looking to have,
When he issues a permit,
And a lot of the
it
permits,
gets a number.
right, and a lot of these, they do get a number when it's when it's finally approved.
I'm
I don't
saying,
issue a number ahead of time because if it's
Yeah,
a
number
permit-
being the 911 number, or is that the number we're looking at?
starting with,
Or is there a permit number?
There's a permit number when it's totally approved.
Okay.
Like, it's like a building permit. I can't issue a building permit number until it's approved. So,
So what you're suggesting is that
and a lot of them are on private roads, and I don't issue a driveway permit. It's a
We-
private
when
road.
he
we
issues,
approve a driveway along with a building permit?
I'm asking, when he fills out a request for a permit,
Mhm.
he puts a number on it and gives us a copy that goes in the blue folder that we can review. That's all I'm asking. I ask that we try it for a while, see if it works.
so, but that changes your whole system if,
Well, I don't issue the number until it's approved, finally approved. Yeah.
okay,
I mean, I can issue it at a time, but
well,
it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter.
all right. But do you see a piece of paper until,
It comes out of my office originally,
okay,
from the builder or the owner or whoever.
Right.
They make an application, they
Right.
sign it, and I give it to Jim with they do a little drawing. He only
And-
does a drawing where they want to make them stake it out.
and can a copy of that go in the folder with the building permits?
You can,
Comes in
yes.
here,
Yeah.
not with sequential numbers or anything, but
Right.
just to, like the building permits, just to see that
That's reasonable.
the,
Yeah.
so let's.
And like I say, not every, like I say, all the houses that are built on private roads don't get a driveway permit.
Right, right,
Because the private road is the driveway.
Pretty much.
yep. All right, well, let's,
And some tear downs already have a driveway.
yep.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we can try that, just
Okay.
stick a copy in the folder.
Yeah.
Then,
You
these
say
additional.
probably last year probably had 8 driveways,
Mhm.
maybe 9.
Well, driving around town, after we've had all this rain and ice and stuff, you see a lot of driveways that
Who's,
that have a deficiency,
Right.
including
and even if
some on the
they're, even
state
if they're
highway.
complete, even if they're fine, you can still get that.
Yes,
Because once they freeze up at the bottom, whether they're pitched back and all that, once you get that frozen part, it's, you know, stopping it.
we got some in Melbourne that were fine forever, and now
Right.
there's an issue this
Yeah.
year, so,
Well, it's a lot of rain too, so the rain's rolling off the ground, because the ground was frozen,
yeah,
so.
yeah,
That's up to the bottom.
yeah. All right, any other questions for,
Thank you for your accommodation, folks.
Thanks, Jack.
Okay.
thanks, Jack?
Jack, can I have a copy of that?
No.
Right to know.
All right, Clay, come on down.
Yes, I'll file an official request.
Happy New Year, Clint.
No.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So Jim's gonna be in today?
Yeah.
I have it.
Thank you. Okay. I'm gonna try to follow my itinerary. Monthly totals for December, you can flip to the second page and the third page to reference it as we go on. 9 solid waste compactors, 7 CD containers, and 2 plastic containers. We had 1 shipment of cardboard. We made $1,623 from that, 22.1 tons. We had 1 shipment of electronics out, 6 tons, $1,250 fee. 1 scrap metal pickup, 8 tons, revenue of $503. And the cash revenues approximately, I don't have an absolute specific number, but this is pretty close. For the year, $94,387. For the tentative yearly totals, I'm going to give you this. This is a copy of the transfer station article for the Tuftonboro Times, and on the second page of that, and on page 3 of the first handout I gave you there, if you look at where the red lines are, it's not complete yet because I don't have the waste management totals, which I just got, so I should have them in the next couple days. If you look at the first line on page 3, solid waste, and the second page of the transfer station will give you the comparisons between the 2017 totals and the 2018 totals. The one article for the transfer station, I guessed those are approximate weights from extrapolation. And you'll look and see that the solid waste we had in 2017 1,047 tons, and this year in 2018 I'm estimating 1,105 tons. So that's a 55-ton increase in MSW. And we've been consistent in MSW all the way along. Well, there's a reason for that. When I first looked at it, I said, oh, now we're starting to get more household goods. Well, remember, we stopped doing paper. So if you look down on the paper line, in 2017, we had 3 shipments out, 70 tons. And in 2018, we only had 1 shipment out before we changed over. That was 23 tons, so there's a 47-ton difference. So if you go back up to the MSW, 47 tons added on to MSW, we only had 8 tons more for the entire year, which is less than 1 compactor. So we're pretty consistent with the MSW. So as far as budgeting goes, if you extrapolate that out to the 2019 budget request, we're pretty accurate on what we want for the 2019 budget. Then if you look at plastic, the third line down on page 3, we had 29.4 tons in 2017. We're going to have around 25 plus a little bit in 2018. So we've gone down a little bit in tonnage, but not very much.
But our disposal costs for that
have gone up,
right?
So it's actually kind of good that we've gone down a little bit.
Yeah. So based on that, have we budgeted enough money?
We have budgeted enough. We changed the budget. I'll get to the budget sheet in a minute, but I just wanted to point out the CD line and the MSW line, and the reason why the MS was up a little bit was the paper. So the CD line in 2017, then let's say what the labor costs. The CD line, you can see that we're up 185 tons, or about 25 containers more this year than we had last year. That's all we need to know right now. We'll talk more in budgetary in a minute. But it's 185 tons and about a 25% increase in volume over last year. Okay? So that has an effect on the budget, which we plan for, but we'll modify in a minute. So if you take these handouts and put them in reverse order, this will be the third page. Second page. Second page, the second page. And and this has got to be that one. You have that one already? No, that one, and that one. Okay,
Yeah, we got it.
do you?
It's only 2 pages.
Oh,
We only got 2
okay.
pages here.
Oh, all right. See that? There's a third one down here. I'm looking like that. With the paper.
Yeah.
Where'd that paper go?
Okay. I won. It's okay. So the the current year expenditures, if you have that one first, you can do a comparison on if your current years, which is this one here with the 2 lines drawn on it. If you look down, if you look at just the labor lines to begin with, I wanted to point out that our computations for labor are pretty accurate. It even impressed me. I'm not trying to tout my own horn, but if you look at the 3 full-time people, or the non-per diem, we were $1,390 over the proposed budget line for 2017, and then the per diem line we were 1,683 below. So we actually came out total labor costs as far as our budget for 2017, $293 below the budget forecast. So that was pretty good. Where the 2 lines are, the CD, and if you go back to page 3 of the original handout, where the tonnage and the extra tonnage on the containers, 185 tons more, and 25% more volume than we had last year in CD. When I originally put the estimate in, and we talked about it for the budget, we made it to 93. If you look at the first page of the proposed budget under CD, you'll see circled 93,000. Okay, our original was 80,000 from last year. We need to increase that as far as for 2019 to 7,000 more. To meet the volume that we actually had this year. Okay. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And that will match the volume that we had this year, so we're set as a base for next year.
Okay.
Okay?
Now, still have an outstanding invoice on 2018, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so
And that
the
invoice,
95.6 that we've already spent,
I assume we're gonna have about another $4,500 in CD costs, which will make it
yeah. Okay.
that number. And that's how I came up with the 7,000. Okay? The only other line, the next line that I wanted to adjust, which is very minor, but I want to make it as close as we can to accurate, is if you look down on the current year expenditures, I went down and compared all of the numbers as far as percentage of the budget that we used, and where the check marks are, we're a little over 100%, but it was offset by other lines that we were under, and it was a fairly small amount and justifiable. And we had already adjusted in the 2019 proposed budget for those overages. The one that I didn't know, because we didn't get fuel delivery, our diesel fuel comes once a year, which is in the end of December. So the volume of fuel that we use is unknown until we get it filled up. And with the Bobcat and the backhoe, and the more use with the pusher box and the plowing, we used almost $200 more than what we budgeted for last year. We budgeted 800, and we used almost $200 more, so I'd like to add $200 to that line, to make that $1,000 for fuel. And that, if you go to page 2 of the proposed budget, that will increase the total amount from 411,176 to 418,376 by changing those two lines.
So we've added $8,000.
7,000 more to CD
Right.
and $200 more
I'm sorry.
to
72.
fuel.
And can we hopefully increase the revenue from?
But that's a whole different, I'll get in that discussion next.
95,000?
I'll get in that discussion next, but I'd like to keep it separate. This is just a cost for volume. Okay?
Question, gentlemen?
Yes. You got my message about swap shop funding?
Yeah, I just picked it up, I haven't looked at it entirely yet, but,
I'd like to have a discussion on that, but it needs to come from you.
okay.
Do you understand my thinking? Or do you want me to review it?
Review it. I didn't get a chance to.
If
I was putting all
if
this-
there's anyone who knows his budget forward and backward, it's you.
Try.
And I'm following up on what my co-selectmen have said when you mentioned about the issues at the swap shop and how stuff is, I don't want to use the word illegal, but people.
Right.
And then you developed a program, instead of us getting a scale, you've gone on a 3-pronged program to this year test if we can maximize
Right,
getting income.
right.
And am I correct in remembering that between $6,000 and $16,000 worth of revenue
Yeah.
is missed out because it goes through the swap shop?
I would say the 6,000 would be about right, probably, and that would be the high.
That's right.
Yeah,
I followed up on a comment that Selectman Albee made that makes sense to spend a few dollars.
right.
And I'm going to suggest that we add a line that says swap shop per diem for 2,000. And if that gets us $6,000 in revenue, I think that's a wise decision.
Right.
Now I'll listen to you.
Right. Yeah. As I said before, I just have a couple concerns with manning and hours of the swap shop. If you only open the swap shop, let's say 10 to 2, or 8 to 10, 2 days a week, or half of the time we're there, that still doesn't stop 80% of the people that come in who want to drop stuff over at the swap shop. Even when we are closed and the doors are closed, people are still dropping stuff over at the swap shop. So it's a couple of issues. One is, what kind of individual is going to man the swap shop and say, no, you can't dump that, you can't dump this stuff here. You can't, that's, that you need to go over and you need to pay to dispose of it in construction. That's one issue, is finding people to do that. I really want to keep the guys I have, I want to keep the guys that I have working per diem because they fit and they do a good job. And like Ralph has a certain personality, Bob has a personality, and Carrie that fit perfect with the people that are that use the facility now. I really don't want to lose any of them to run in the swap shop. So who are we going to get? That's going to be an issue. It's going to still be an issue of people arguing and getting into issues by whoever stands over there, thinking that their stuff needs to go in the swap shop and they don't need to pay to get rid of it. And you'll see, I think, many more issues where people come and complain to the selectmen that somebody's being too hard at the swap shop.
I guess my
I don't know that it's
question would be
worth,
is if it's to try to generate the revenue that we're losing, then it's just a police action. It's not, I mean, the swap shop theoretically is to reuse, but if our goal is to keep things from being dumped there that should go somewhere else, then it's a police action.
well, it's
So do we
part,
just get rid of it?
So, and as I see it with the swap shop, there are two kinds of stuff that get dropped there. To my simplistic thinking. One is stuff that ought to go directly into the CD because because it's junk.
Right.
Okay, so if I drop it at the swap shop, I don't have to pay to get rid of it.
right,
The other category, and it's similar, is stuff that may be reusable, but doesn't move. Okay, somebody brings it in there, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, and
we don't
and-
have the storage
but-
space to
but-
store it.
But we can't keep stuff forever, so we end up having to throw it out because it just doesn't move.
Correct.
So, in a sense, that's not as bad as the stuff that's just junk.
Right.
But the result is the same, and that is, it ends up going into the CD container.
Right.
And we pay to dispose of it, because nobody wants it.
Right, and the
Or
third
the
is,
person that might want this stuff doesn't, we can't let it sit there for
correct,
a week or 30 days or however long it might take for the right individual for this little item to say, this is exactly what I need.
and the third is people that consciously come in and sneak when we are busy in the summertime, and there's 20 cars sitting out in front of the swap shop as well as the recycling building and the compactors, and we're flat out. And you get a large screen TV put in the middle of the swap shop,
Yeah.
and you know darn well that they know better, that person knows better. They're putting it in there for a reason because they don't want to pay to get rid of the electronics that you have to pay to get rid of. Or somebody brings a pickup truck and you got 3 stuffed chairs from grandma, that the mice have half-eaten. There's a reason they're bringing them to the transfer station, but I'm not paying to get rid of these. Okay? Well, sorry, I mean, that's what it is. Well, I'm gonna throw them on the side of the road, or I'll go home and burn them. And then you get an argument, and then inevitably, when the argument gets, or even if the argument isn't that serious, the last time we had the issue was the lady came running down here to the selectmen while I was sitting here and said how bad we were at the swap shop for calling her stuff junk. The issue is, anytime it's co-located with the transfer station, anytime the transfer station is open, you're gonna have problems if it's not manned.
Unless you have somebody watching it
So,
so that
right.
stuff doesn't get dropped there.
Right. And then, so you have to have somebody full-time, and full-time is,
That doesn't seem as though it would answer the argument.
and then that person that's there full-time has to be,
Now, they're arguing
Discipline.
with the grandmother's chairperson.
right,
This argument hasn't gone away.
correct.
How do we, I mean, I'm losing patience with the whole notion. I mean, maybe we
Located,
encourage somebody to open up a private swap.
well, we have a consignment shop in Melvin.
Yeah, but they're,
When you got the place down here by North.
Well, see, the consignment shop has the exact same problem that we have at the transfer station. Because somebody brings something in and says, can you take this? And she has to say yes or no.
right.
But they're not bringing in 40 boxes of material that was stored in a barn that's all broken coffee cups and glasses and crystal, that it's all broken. And then that person gets mad when she says, I can't take it, you know? I mean, if somebody wants to go into the business, let them set up a swap shop outside.
I mean, what is the, what is the community benefit of the swap shop? And is there any? I mean, have we realized any?
Well, I think the benefit is to give people an opportunity for stuff to not go into disposal,
Reuse.
for reuse of stuff. So, but how much of the stuff that goes to the swap shop actually makes it into that arena? And how much of it,
How many alternatives are there to
you
do
know,
that?
so.
Church fairs, you know,
Would you,
they're not.
you know,
Yard sales.
it's hard to quantify, but are we talking 50% of it makes it to reuse, 25% of it makes it to reuse, 10% of it makes it to reuse?
I'd say 10 to 20% makes it to
And
reuse.
the rest of it
And the
just
rest
doesn't
is
move and ends up having to.
In the
to go
bucket, and over in the construction.
So the fee for that-
So this,
The fee for that 20% reuse is the additional tonnage that we're not getting revenue from.
Correct.
So if you got $6,000, is that what we came up with?
So,
Yes, that's the low figure, yes,
So it costs you $6,000 to reuse 20% of that
yes.
junk that comes into the. I mean, if you do just a general cost benefit analysis, it's not worth it.
it's, yeah, it doesn't make,
We could buy probably new things that equal that 20% for $6,000. I mean,
Sure.
I've seen some stuff that goes in there. It doesn't.
and, you know, the byproduct of that is that all that takes time. It takes time and manpower and liability. You know, that's why we close that place in the wintertime, just because of the liability and the upkeep
And the ice.
and the ice. You know, it's
What is your
I'd rather spend $6,000 on a public awareness campaign to not go to Dollar General or any of those other junk stores and buy stuff. I mean, if we just limited the amount of shit that people buy.
good luck with that.
If there's if I would
I hope so.
appear to be negative about it, I would rather have that money to be able to use for other things. We need other things rather than that. You know, we need a new boiler. We need a new, you know, that boiler's on its last legs. Those kind of things. But at the same time, you know, there are people that come up there 4, 5, 6 times a day.
Yeah.
That
I mean, it
also is a negative.
If you look just at the revenue side of it, it's 6% of our revenue that's gone out the door. And we've all been in situations where somebody told us we couldn't lose 6% of our revenue and got
Right.
out of business.
Right. Yeah, and the bottom line is that's what it comes down to me. It comes down to manpower and cost.
And that's why I put the $2,000 in there.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't want to get into police action. I don't know that that's changing anything
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
And that-
play.
It's no different than the
Because-
mandatory recycling. issue where every bag that comes in there, you poke,
Right.
and if somebody's got recyclables in it, you toss it off to the side, and you make them go through it and clean all this stuff out.
Right, well,
Same
exactly.
rationale. Yeah.
exactly. And, you know, let's say we take Kerry and put Kerry over there. The same issue still is in the swap shop. And then we lose what we have with Kerry.
Well, you haven't solved anything, because all you've done is put a person into the situation that already exists. You haven't changed the situation. You still have somebody saying, that can come into the swap shop, that can't.
Right,
And the consequential arguments that come with that.
mhm,
So we need to change the dynamic if we're
Well,
going to do
well,
anything.
and if people drop stuff at the swap shop whenever the transfer station's open, and you want to control that, then you have to have labor at the swap shop every hour the transfer station's open. And that's not $2,000. That's significantly more than that. So, I mean, that's another full-time person.
Yeah, and then are we gonna put cameras up and film? I mean, really,
The first response is, I think that the police action comment is overstated.
sorry.
Since you've been there, there have been major changes. Traffic pattern was one of them,
Right.
the glass, the paper, and yes, you had people who were curmudgeons. But isn't it amazing? There wasn't this
Yeah.
police action you talk about.
right.
I apologize. Lloyd.
No problem. I've reached the point where for $6,000, I either vote to try this under your leadership for a period of time, like your negotiation with the independent contractors, you know. I watched you there, and there were some that gave you some back talk and whatnot, but you handled it. And it seems to be seamless after a month, and that's a compliment to you. Or I'm going to make a motion that we do not open the swap shop. For $6,000, we either fund it, or we don't cause you to have a $6,000 loss in income.
Yeah.
That I'm getting to that point, and I'm about 5 steps away from it. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know that you're gonna capture all $6,000,
No.
because you're still gonna have some elements that are
If
just gonna.
he captures 2,000,
Well,
it's a wash item.
The piece that is always the wild card in there is stuff that could have a legitimate home.
Yes.
But somebody just doesn't happen to come in and pick it up before it has to be cleaned out because you're out of space and people keep bringing stuff in. I mean, if somebody's there all the time, you can divert stuff that legitimately shouldn't go there. It goes to electronics, go to the C&D directly because of what it is, and condition, that sort of thing. And I know you always had signs up that say, no electronics, okay? So if somebody can read English, there's no way they can not
Right.
understand that stuff doesn't go there.
Oh, and they put the TV right underneath the sign.
Yeah, yeah.
At one point, haven't you said to some people, out of courtesy to you, we'll put it in here, but you've asked them for a deposit, and if it,
Well, that is for, not for electronics. Electronics can't go there.
Right.
Nothing that plugs in.
but some of the marginal stuff,
Even a grandma's chair, stuffed chair.
and if it doesn't go in 10 days,
Okay, the same one that the mice eat. Okay, we'll put this here. But you have to pay the $5 fee that it would cost to put it in the CD. I'll take the $5, I'll put it in the bottom of the cash container, come back next Saturday, if the chair is gone, then I'll give you the
Well,
$5
knowing,
back.
I mean, if you could somehow quantify the amount that was coming in and the amount that was going ultimately into C&D,
Right,
so you could figure out what the net difference was.
there again, that's
But that takes.
That's tracking, that's labor, that's, you know.
Right. But
I
at that point,
I would
at
say,
that point, you could charge people to put things in the
Let's
swap
take a
shop.
different look at the swap shop. My understanding is that early on, when this thing was set up, there were volunteers that were
Correct.
very dedicated to this, that manned it when it was open. Not employees of the town, but volunteers that wanted to see this thing happen.
correct.
And they manned it, and it worked. And I think
When
I think I've heard that the individual that was kind of leading the charge there, after several years, moved out of town and went on to something else, and the volunteer effort sort of fell by the wayside at that point. So that's another way to look at this, is if you had people that really believed in it, that wanted to step up and volunteer to man it, to run it, and others, there are other communities that have swap shops that are run totally by volunteers. Then it might be something that works. You still have the potential issue with stuff that,
Or volunteers not showing up, or, you know, and
Remember
they're
the
not there.
remember the volunteers you had that were swearing and putting their hands on people, and you had to usher them off the property?
No, that was one of the customers. We had, the problem we had were people claiming stuff for themselves and then trying to sell it on eBay or whatever they sell it on. But that was an issue that happened before I got there.
Even if it's a volunteer effort, they still have to have oversight. So we've still got to play
Right.
somehow involved. They still have to live by the rules of, I mean, it's like if you're a planning board member, you still have to live by the rules of town government.
right,
You know,
If it was me, if you're asking the optimum of what I would like that located someplace else.
well, no, we can't locate it someplace else. These are not
You
located.
understand what I'm saying? Is that highlights what the problem is. We have, you know, basically 4 people in the summertime, and when it's really busy. And there's no matter what you do, if that place is there, it takes manpower and time. And what do we gain? What do we gain out of it? You know, I mean.
Right.
So that, therein lies the problem. That's why it's a difficult conversation to have. I like to see reuse, recycle, or, you know, I mean, that's our motto, that's our pledge to try to do it. But at the same time, it's an economic situation. It's just like paper. When does it become, the timeline is done? We're not gonna do mixed paper anymore because it costs us so much money to do it. And the swap shop is,
Will the chair entertain a motion?
I will. Sure.
I move that we increase the solid waste budget, and I'll go line by line. 432420, C&D disposal, and you can word this however you want. It goes from 93,000, we add 7,000, so that new total is 100,000. Okay so far?
Yep.
The same motion, 432430, fuel. We change from 800, add 200, so that line reads 1,000. With those 2 additions, Clay, what is the total?
the total is
418,376.
418,376.
418,376?
Correct.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I guess I'll make a motion as well for the motion business.
Okay,
I'm gonna move that we eliminate the swap shop from the transfer station, and I would entertain having somebody or the town put an ad in the paper asking if somebody wanted to operate a swap shop 24/7, or however many hours you're open.
I'm going to second that motion. And Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate for us, and I'm borrowing from his statement from the first year, that we table this motion until our next meeting? It allows the people who watch TV to talk about it and get back to us.
Sure.
But I like your idea that we do the advertisement.
Yeah, if somebody wants to come and do it and take complete control of it.
Or maybe there's a
Well,
501c.
I think that's,
to do it.
I think that's,
And I'm
The
aware
right decision.
of, there's a group of people in town that really enjoy the swap shop.
me too.
And as I said before,
Well,
they're the ones that benefit from it. And for them, it's somewhat social as well as other things, and that's great.
Right.
But
What?
having an independent operation
Right.
dealing with that stuff is not a bad thing.
Let them bring a business plan.
Karen, could you read the motion back?
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you, so I have that, Selectmen Albee moved to eliminate the swap shop from the transfer station. Oh, what did I say? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
And put an ad in the paper to see
Is
if
there a
some,
comma there?
oh, there'll be commas. And put an ad in the paper to see if someone wants to open, I think you said a swap shop during the hours that the transfer station is open.
I move this motion be tabled.
I'll second that.
Okay? So we'll put that in follow-up.
I think we've had enough.
Yes.
Clay,
Okay.
thank you.
Anything else for us
Well,
today?
yes, yeah, oh, yeah.
Jesus.
That's why I didn't want to
He's
get.
just getting started.
I didn't want to get, okay.
Is this the epistle that you sent us?
Yes, okay, so that, that took care of the budget and,
So that took care of item one.
Right.
Now on the,
now we're down to, on the number 2C. I just wanted you to know, we are going to need a new boiler sooner rather than later. We've gotten it fixed now 2 or 3 times in a very short period of time. He can't, the technology of it, where the boiler actually is, he can only get half of it out to clean. He can't get the other half out. It is old, and at
So
some
it
point
won't
in
come
time,
out or it can't get to it?
no, he can't get it out. It won't come out.
Okay, so but it's still accessible.
It's
You
still
just can't get it out.
accessible. He can't clean it.
So
He
we don't have
can't.
to redesign the building?
No. The boiler where the flames are.
Yep.
So, I'll get an estimate from him, you know, and the benefit of getting a new boiler at some point in time is gonna be, we're gonna go from, 60% efficiency
Yeah.
unit to something that's 95% efficient. So, and we don't spend a whole lot on heat, in comparison to some houses. And it works pretty good. So I just wanted to, I wanted to give you a heads up on that. The general info items, we do have new stickers at the transfer station. We have them down here at the town office. You can get them at the transfer station. Ralphie was on yesterday. We had an increase of people buying stickers by about 1,000%.
He was peddling.
Oh, yeah, he was peddling. So he when he's on, our revenue from stickers goes through the roof. So he did a great job yesterday. And the last thing, we did have an incident at the transfer station a while back, latter part of December, and this is a summary. Jim's here, so he'll tell you a little bit about it. But it was the sand truck backed into the building.
There was my sand truck, so my insurance is taken care of.
Right.
Nothing to do with the town.
Right. And
So it was like it was
So what-
something you needed. It was one
Jim
of
and
the things,
I,
right?
Jim and I talked, and we had it coordinated out. It happened about 3 o'clock on Friday, on the 28th of December. By Saturday at noon, the office wall was fixed. The office cleaned up, the desk free put back, the paneling on the side. The framing had to be redone and around the middle. The estimate for total work came out to 1,850. A large majority of the work's already been done. We've ordered new windows, and that is yet to come in. That 1,850 includes a new window and installation and clapboard back on the outside of the building.
Did I read something about paint?
And there's an additional $200 for paint, for materials and labor to paint the inside wall and the trim and the outside once it's done. We're not gonna be able to paint the outside until it's warmer, obviously. But I just want you to know, this sheet can be used, and I sent pictures in to Karen, did I send them to you?
Yeah.
So they can be used to supplement anything Jim has.
Has the insurance appraiser been out to look at the?
I talked to the insurance appraiser. I sent them the quotes and pictures.
Yep.
And the last that I heard was, if the quote seems reasonable, she wasn't planning on coming out. I think the quote's very reasonable,
You guys-
so I don't think they're coming out.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think it was so reasonable, I believe, he really gave us, I mean, it wasn't even probably 30 minutes after it happened that we had Rick Thompson came out and looked at it to give us an estimate, and Jack came and checked the structural damage of the building. And Ricky said, okay, I'll be here tomorrow morning. And by noon time on Saturday, he had it reframed and the old paneling back up. There's a few areas that need to be fixed and trimmed out, but we had the new.
It's weather tight now.
It's actually, believe it or not, tighter than when the window was in it before. Because there was not a whole lot of insulation in there, in those walls, and Ricky, packed new insulation and doing the new framing and really packed it good, so, that is so very, very, I think, very reasonable.
Can I go back to my other item, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
To go back to the furnaces,
Yes,
as you know, I've done some research. There are 3 buildings that have furnaces or heating issues that are old and need to be corrected. And I've taken the point of view that we've had a great deal of luck by having global approaches, for example, like the generator.
sure. Well, we should do that on everything. I mean, we've done that, like we talked about before,
Yes.
generators, roofs, painting.
There's
And, you get a better deal when you put.
There's the Melvin Fire Station that goes back to 1962, and Adam, has put things off, like you have, in deference to getting libraries. His building has auxiliary heat, but never has a primary heat source. And you would have to be on propane, right?
Correct.
We now have a generator that has propane. Instead of going with fuel oil, if you go with propane, do you see where I kind of like
Sure.
a global approach
Right.
to things? And I realize it takes more efforts on your part,
Yeah.
but
And we could go, we could change over to a propane, like a Rinnai commercial grade wall unit with a water reservoir that is 98%.
and I will share with the board, you've looked into recycling the used waste oil.
Right, we
Okay.
don't get enough oil to do that.
And you
so-
legally can't go out and buy.
Right, we're not allowed to.
So, no, but you guys have,
Yeah.
checked out, scoped these things out. I wanted to share that with you,
Right.
thank you.
So, you're gonna investigate new boilers, right?
Right,
Propane, fuel oil, get the information.
Okay.
Then we can see what makes sense.
okay,
And the fact that we're gonna have propane there anyway, going forward,
right.
can make the changeover.
The only difference I can tell you just from personal experience with propane is when your volume of usage is fairly low and you get like 100-gallon tanks or 2 100-gallon tanks, you can put them right up against the building, as long as they're a certain distance away from the windows. Once the volume gets up, if you have a 500-gallon tank or a 1,000-gallon tank,
Price comes down.
then the price comes down, but the storage where you can put those tanks,
And how,
you
where it
can't,
points.
you can't put them
Right.
up next to the building. They have to be someplace further away, which might be difficult at a transfer station.
Well, we'll take a look at it,
You know.
and,
Right. I'll look into that and get back to you.
And where?
Before you leave, I'd like to pay you a compliment.
Oh, okay, I'll take that.
In the last year, you had some major changes up there with glass and paper.
Right.
And I know that you bugged NRA
Right.
and all that. Thank you for your patience and your professionalism. But the thing that I think you're a saint on is it took you a year to work with Time Warner to bundle
Right.
the computer internet,
Right.
the telephone, and the audio services. And is that what you were paying for Fairpoint?
Consolidated?
Yes.
Yes.
And Fairpoint was a telephone that you
Just a
didn't-
telephone.
didn't always work.
Correct.
So, thank you, sir.
Yeah, they had, it was a telephone and a unsatisfactory connection due to length with Fairpoint for the computers. This is, the same price gives us much more capability.
Good.
And the thing is, after I had it all put in, and we got it all done, and everything all set, boom, into the side of the building, and I come in, and all the tech stuff is not a thing wrong with any of it. I have a tiny little scratch on the screen of the computer, and that's it.
no, that's
We
great.
were very, very lucky.
Yeah.
So we've dropped from 17 tons to 6 tons in tires. And-
Oh, well, I can tell you what happens with tires, okay?
All right.
We have a 40-yard container, closed container,
Yeah.
for tires. And it's 700 plus to have that container pulled. And it runs, you know, we have gone through a year where, and then we have, then the rent for the container through Rothier, through NRA, is another $750. So it's $1,500 a year, 1,500 plus for if you move one container. There are years when we get up through December and, you know, you still got an eighth of the container left of space left.
So the-
So you get into January and you move one in January, and then you end up moving another one that same December.
So you're
So you
maximizing
move
the
two
load.
containers in 1 year, but the next year, you know, you're only gonna move one.
Right.
So the variance in price is about $800 for each container that you move, and there's one-time charge of $750 for rent for the year.
But over a 3-year period, it averages out.
Right. So, yeah, when we used, I think we used 2 containers,
And is
It
that,
says, last year you shipped 3 containers.
yeah,
That's
3 containers.
2017, and in 2018 you shipped 1.
Correct.
So maybe the first one you shipped in 2017
Right.
was
It's-
January 5th or something,
And it's
right?
getting ready to be moved now.
Okay.
So,
It's parallel to your stickers.
Correct.
One year you make $1,000 on stickers, but they go for 2 years, so the next year it
so
drops off.
is that amount that we're charging for tires included in the NRA number?
yes, no, it's not. The
Where's the-
NRA number, the hauling and rental for the tires is included in the budget line for tires. Tires, freon and metal, $1,600. That's $750 for rent and $800 for transportation, for
So
one
six-
container.
$1,600 for tires, Freon, and whatever.
Freon and metal, yeah, we don't, that's just labeled because it's always been labeled that. But that line is specifically for tires and moving.
So we
tires.
need to look at our our rate that we're charging on tires. I think.
You do? $4?
Well, you're not breaking even on that deal.
Oh, yeah, we are. I think so.
You just told me you got $1,500 worth of container cost. And then your haulage cost.
No, it's 1,500, it's $1,500.
To rent the container?
No,
$750.
$750 a year to rent the container,
Okay,
okay, and it's $800 to move it.
so that's,
So it's
Which
roughly,
includes the disposal cost.
yes,
Right,
yes.
So,
So if you move one
$1,550.
container a year, it's $1,500.
Next year's 2,000.
And how many tires do you get in a container?
That's a guess on anybody's part because you don't know whether you're gonna get tractor tires or
I'm
car
just trying
tires.
to, I'm just
You get
trying
6
to.
tons,
All right, so,
roughly 6 tons.
yeah, so, and you charge $4 a tire, right?
Right.
So that's how you know if you're breaking even. If you've,
Well, I can add up the weekly wrap up.
if you
tire
get
charge
five,
compared to what we have.
right,
you
if
have
you,
$1,550 worth of cost.
right, if you
You
get
get
2,000,
15.
if you get 500 tires in there, then you've
Then you
covered
don't
it.
pay.
Okay, if you get 400 tires in there, you've covered it. If you get 300 tires in there, you haven't covered it. So, but as you say, some tires are bigger than others. It's just how many you can actually get in there.
Correct. And then the other part of that equation is when we do the price check, the usage fees check,
Yeah.
we check with Marlboro, we check with Wolfboro, we check with
I was gonna
Ossipee.
ask you to do that.
And, that is the
Standard.
going rate for what everybody charges for tires. If they charge $10 a tire, then, we're gonna see pickup truckloads of tires coming
To our
from
transportation.
Wolfboro with a Tuppenboro guy to
Right.
dump in here. So we have to kind of stay in line with them.
Well, that's assuming that everybody else is doing their job.
Right.
And I'm not, if you include Freon in there, and you're including some other, was it metal?
Yeah, that doesn't include, that $1,600 is specifically for tires and tire rental, tire container rental.
Okay.
Okay, and that's why the NRA charge is down, because that line is used, we do that through NRA. And that's not included in the NRA line. We have a 3 or 4 lines in the budget. The way the budget was set up and the titles of the line, I can't change. And so some of that it goes through NRA and some doesn't. And when I hand the bill in, I extrapolate out what goes to what line, and Karen pays it. Diana pays it.
Where I was heading, ultimately, my long trip here, was we've increased the C and D to $100,000.
Right.
And what are we gonna do about revenues? We're gonna increase the revenues.
My guess is revenue for this year will probably be close to 120,000.
Okay.
But
100
but not from C and D. That's
I'd say,
total.
yeah, I'd say we will probably get close to $100,000 from C&D this year. We did that test, and we tested the numbers, and
Right.
we picked up around 90% of the total cost.
The nice thing
Or
about the
CD,
revenue
okay.
projections is we can adjust it several times during the year
Right.
before we set the tax rate for next year.
Right.
Yeah, but in terms of,
What we
we're
collect.
talking
for
about
the
what we
CD.
collect.
Yes.
Okay, so
Right.
what we project, we can adjust. But what we collect, we need to, the objective is to have that issue break even. If we spend $100,000 on having C and D hauled out of here.
Right.
Then we want to have $100,000 worth of revenue from people that are
Paying.
delivering C and D to the transfer station.
Right. Now,
So
there is
basically-
some level of offset, because we have collectively said, when the state guys come in, when Jim comes in, when somebody else comes
Mattresses
in,
beside the
stuff on the road,
That's
projects that we do, there's gonna be a certain percentage,
It's
let's
fine.
say
If
5%.
it's town-generated C and D, then
Right.
we're not gonna ask the town government to reimburse the
Right.
town government for
Right.
this,
If
okay?
there's a,
But
if 5% of your C and D is charitable work, like town C and D.
Right.
Then your rates need to go up 5%. And that's how it has to work. I mean, you've got, your budget's gone up 40,000 plus. And we're looking at a revenue increase of $6,000.
Oh,
I
no,
think-
no.
I think we need to look, or maybe it's 26,000.
Yeah.
But I think we need to look at all the revenue lines and make sure we're spot on.
Getting the revenue for that item.
Right.
Right.
I mean, if we can
Yes.
get rid of the swap shop, we picked up another $6,000.
Yes.
So it would be nice to have
If that
flat
happens-
revenue expense
If-
going
if-
forward. So
yes.
you've gone from 375 to 415 or whatever it is, 418.
If that happens, if the swap shop goes away, I am extremely 99%, 95% confident that what we collect for CD is going to be much, much closer
Right.
than what we actually.
And that's the goal. No
Right.
matter which way we
If
look.
that is
was
a
the
goal, if that's a goal, my level of it, confidence that we will meet that goal is much higher without the problem with the swap shop.
Yeah, because the vast majority of our citizens don't create C and D on an annualized basis.
Right.
You know, they're gonna
It comes
do
from
some-
house cleanings, it comes from people that die,
Right.
Projects.
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 Building projects.
after the church fair,
Right.
after this, after that comes, oh, well, we're doing this to the town
Yeah.
Well, now the church, I know the church doesn't, that stuff doesn't come to the transfer station.
oh, yeah, some, it does. Even after the dumpster.
Well, I was gonna say, that's why the church has a roll-off there.
Yeah,
for
they
all
do
this.
very good down there. I mean,
Yeah,
they pack that dumpster for every inch, but we still get truckloads. Now, they're very good. They pay for what they bring up, so. And it's hand-picked out of what's gonna be brought up to what's sent in the dumpster down there. So, but yeah, my confidence level would go even higher, that we are going to meet the CD.
so the charges that you collect from people when they drop off C and D, that goes into the recycling fees and permits line in the revenue,
I have no idea about that.
okay?
I started my, I can tell you, if you go to page 1 here, if you go to this page 1 of the 3-page handout that I gave you,
Yeah.
okay, I track every cost and every revenue, most every revenue that we get in on this piece of paper. The other area, and so my version of the revenue is total revenue that's paid to us, okay?
So
What Diane keeps is different.
It's two lines.
Right.
I mean, $95,000 in 3401, 03, and 04.
Right,
Recycling fees and permits and recycling income.
right.
And I don't know how she breaks it up. But
Right.
It's those two lines.
Whether stickers goes in there, whether this goes, you see, mine, on my numbers, is total, it's everything.
Right, but if we spend $100,000 to dispose of C and D, then
How am I gonna know that?
then $100,000 should show up in there someplace. And it doesn't, all right? So total revenues at 94. That includes stuff that includes.
Tires, that
Right,
includes,
that also includes revenue from sale of aluminum, I believe,
Right.
right? And all these other things. So if we pare the onion down a little bit and say, how much of that do we actually get that we're collecting from Joe Schmuckatelli when he brings in pickup
Right.
loads of stuff that goes into C and D?
and you can do that, and I do that. Our weekly wrap-up, when we turn in the weekly bills
Right.
to Diane, On the weekly wrap-up sheet, it's broken down into appliances, appliances with Freon, appliances without Freon, tires, truck tires, bulky items, which is CD, sofas, sleeper sofas, stuffed chairs, electronics, construction debris, and other. And each one of those lines for every week gives a total number of income that we get from those items. Now, what it doesn't list is it doesn't list when we have a scrap metal pickup and it goes to Berwick Metal. Berwick Metal sends us a check. I don't know how she tracks those
That probably
totals.
goes into the 04 line, recycling income.
Right.
So,
Right.
all I'm saying
We need an
is,
Excel spreadsheet to
Yeah.
follow this.
that we're with 81,000 and change coming from recycling fees, which I'm gonna assume is money that you collect from people dropping stuff off.
Correct.
We're not near parity yet.
Right, 94,000, correct. And the 94,000 in a sticker year and a better recycling year, that 94,000 would have been probably 110,000. Okay? The difference is the extra CD that we had, we weren't charging enough for.
Right.
So we adjusted that charge, but that was 2/3 of the way
Right.
through this year.
Yep.
So
Okay.
hopefully next year, you'll see that line be $120,000 of,
Yep.
collected, so.
Okay.
And that's always been the problem, is because the way that we have directed here to do revenues and break it down, how you have to break it down and report it, is different from what we would do as a business.
Right. And
Our bottom line and expenses
State-
versus costs,
state budgeting has
different.
certain ways that we
Right.
have to do that.
So I try to bring to you guys what the total is.
Yep.
Well, you covered an awful lot, sir.
Any other questions for Clay?
I'm sorry about that, but
No,
I think it was good to,
we're always
Yep.
prepared, thank you.
okay.
Thanks, Clay.
Happy New Year. Thank you for waiting, Jim.
Mr. Bean?
I'm gonna be late going to Dollar General store.
You need it? That's cool. Yeah, that's right. Clay will give you a shopping list. He's got some stuff he needs to.
You'll have to have a selectman approved shopping. Shopping.
Yeah.
No job lots,
Shop, it's a swap shop.
Yep.
all these bits.
So how you doing?
Doing all right, thank you. So since January 1st to date, we plowed and/or treated the roads 8 times already, or 8 days already, starting on New Year's Eve. And in between plowing and treating, we've been hauling in winter sand and mixing with salt, putting it away in the shed. We're a little behind. It seems like it's going out just as fast as we're bringing it in at the moment, but hopefully this week we're working on that and we'll be able to get the shed stocked back up. Also, we're working on cutting limbs and trees that are hanging in the road debris that came down this last heavy storm. And we're getting the trucks ready for snow on Friday and possibly Sunday.
It's gonna snow again?
Yeah, not a lot.
Kidding me.
We just said light snow, so
They also said ice.
it seems like that's kind of how it's been all year.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Last storm, some of the roads at 9 o'clock hadn't even been plowed. Was there a late start, or it's just heavy snow? And I'm not trying to be
No.
adversarial here.
You know what, it looked that way, but that was an unusual storm. So the guys were out, we got an early start. And then it came down just all at once.
I know we had 2 inches like in 45 minutes or something like that. So.
Oh, I would say even faster than that. It was
The reason I asked the
unbelievable.
question is
Yeah.
that people watch this and
Yeah,
hear your
yeah,
explanation.
it came down quite quickly. We
Better
were
clean up my act, huh?
just trying to get it done as quick as we could, but it came down awful fast.
Well, and I often notice, and I think I remember from that storm, you guys were ahead of the state crews on the highways here in town. I mean, the town roads were at least as
And
clear.
east of here, 'cause I
Yeah.
drove that morning,
Yep.
the state roads weren't done.
Yeah, we got an early start. It just came all at
It's
once.
nature,
and
right?
and it made it look like we didn't do anything, but we were out there and doing our best.
So you probably heard that we awarded the bid for the town truck to Steve Hunter. Has he come to pick it up?
No, not yet.
And you may have heard that we have eliminated a new truck from our current warrant speculation.
I did read that.
So probably the way you're handling it this year is gonna be the way you
Well, next year.
handle it next year.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. And you had, I think, purchased the truck, right?
Yes,
Have you billed us for that yet?
yes.
How's that working out?
Good, but as soon as I leave here, I gotta bring the radiator down to the radiator shop already. But that's all right. I kinda knew that when I bought it, and
It's used?
I bought a used truck, yeah. And I knew it had a leak, but there was a back order on, I bought it from a Mac dealer, and Mac has a back order on that particular radiator, so I'm like, I can't wait, I need it now.
Yeah.
I'll deal with it when we get a break, and this is,
Today's the break, huh?
seems like the best break we've had for a while, so
Yeah.
I'm putting it down at the radiator shop to get repaired.
Other issues that are facing you? And any particular ones? No?
Nothing big, nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay, looking for,
I know you had mentioned, you had shared with me a while back that you were having trouble finding guys with CDLs that drive for you. Is that still true? Or you?
We're in pretty good shape right now. Yep. Seems to be better than it has been, so, yep.
to continue on my question on the second plow truck. Take a look between, well, end of January, when you get your first budget to review. Let's see how that's impacting the budget versus having a town truck. There's gotta be some cost differences there, so.
I would say you're coming out way ahead at the moment.
Well, I hope so,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
we wanna make sure we don't come out way behind, because,
Yep.
we're gonna struggle probably again this year, but hopefully we get the struggle down to a manageable level.
Yep.
You hit the key buzzword, budgets. Can I make a suggestion that we make some modifications to the budget on how it's recorded? Rather than just summer, just winter?
Yeah, I'd like to, but I
I will-
don't
I-
know if we can do that this year, but I think we should.
I will come up with a sample form, and I'll work on that, and there would be nothing that I would expect to go through until everyone in this room agrees.
I mean, I think we can change it up. I just think that we're constrained by the programming that we have to use for the state or for whoever, as far as adding lines or eliminating lines.
I'm not looking to add lines.
Well, I don't know how effective it will be without adding something, unless we eliminate.
That'd be a possibility.
I mean, I don't think clarity is gonna come when we can take the winter line and divide it all up into what the real expenses are to take care of the work.
Exactly. I call it a program budget.
So so it would be outside of this format?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'll draw something up for you. I have some things from past meetings that can I just, because you've been busy, can I go through them?
Sure.
Can the Board of Selectmen get a copy of the catch basin inventory you said that your guy did?
Yeah,
Not right now, but,
I think I do have one with me.
okay.
I can have Karen make a copy of that.
It's a work in progress. The granite post on Durgan Road, you said you had to check with the mail delivery people?
I didn't get a clear answer on that when I went down to the post office, so I think I need to,
What did they give you for an answer?
it was, I didn't understand, I guess, exactly what the distance was. It seemed like that it wasn't clear if it was to the mailbox or the post.
Okay. You can just follow up on that.
Yep.
Again, I saw your guy, whoever drives your big truck is pretty masterful. He goes out around that granite post, and someone from the neighboring town couldn't slow down. And of course, I'm gonna tell you, you know this, when your truck pulls out, where does the plow go? Halfway across the other lane. And the last thing we need is another accident.
That's why we go,
Yeah.
slow and
Uh,
stop if we need to.
I'd like to review the accident with the mirror,
Okay.
okay? Why is the town writing the check for that? Why isn't it handled like the other?
I don't know.
Well, that was my call.
Mm-hmm.
Jim and I talked about it, small amount of money. It probably would have been.
It was a town truck.
Yeah, it probably would have been, it should have gone to Primex, but he and I talked about it. I said, let's just write a check and get it done. It was a town truck that did it, so that's,
And was it a town employee who was driving the truck?
it was Jim's employee, but it's still a town vehicle, so it's.
And none of us
town
are even
responsibility.
100% sure how or when.
So it's somebody else's mirror, it's not ours.
No, it was a mirror on a car that was parked across from the general store. And this individual, I guess, came out and noticed that the mirror was knocked off or dinged or something. Came down to the police station, filed an accident report. What we figured is that as the plow driver came down Federal Corner Road and was turning around to go back up, must have clipped the mirror back and up, right?
Correct, but nobody saw it.
Nobody
didn't
saw
notice
it, but, so, what, $800? So, you know, it's,
I'd rather not have any more. When you start adding, things onto the insurance,
well,
it can get costly.
it can, but, we've talked about it since then. That was my mistake at the time. Any accident that we have with town equipment just goes to Primex. And if that affects what we pay for our insurance, so be it. But then it just gets us out of the, well, it's not very much, so this, that, or the other.
Right, and we
Just-
got
we
a
just sent it-
refund from
Well,
Primex
right,
this year.
right. We just send it to the insurance company, let them take care of it. And the other thing that happens is, then if there's any back and forth about, well, gee, that's an outrageous amount of money, or then you let the insurance company handle the whole thing. And so, that was my call in talking to you about it at the time. It seemed reasonable, but on reflection, I did the wrong thing. And I think just going forward, we just need to, any damage or that sort of thing goes to the insurance company. If it's building damage from a storm, knocks out the electrical panel or whatever, and it's gonna cost $300 to fix it, it goes to the insurance company. Doesn't matter what the deductible is, we know what our deductible is, but just file with the insurance company, and then it's simple. Then it takes all this out of it. But that was my call on that. And again, it was a situation where our operator wasn't aware that there was that he'd caused any damage. Somebody came down here and filed a police report on it and said that this is what happened. So where do you go from there? I think just deal with it.
Move on, fine.
Yeah.
We included a warrant article for Sawyer Road. You're aware of that? Yes. And it was-
For preparation
Oh,
for paving.
preparation.
$15,000 of prep costs.
Right.
Is that an accurate figure in your adjustment for that mile?
Not for paving, just.
What we, as we were working on the warrant last week, what we decided to do was to include the paving we were gonna do on Sawyer Road as part of the paving article in the warrant.
Okay.
But because at one point, town meeting said no paving on Sawyer Road, we felt that it was a good idea to put an article on the warrant and let town meeting either approve or reject the paving. And by putting an article in that includes prep for paving, it gives
It's suitably
it gives
warrants
town meeting the opportunity to say, we don't want to pave it, or we do. So we stuck $15,000 in as the prep cost. That may be high. We can adjust that down. You know how long that section of Sawyer Road is. One thing that we always need to keep in mind with special warrant articles like this is that we can spend, we're not constrained on how much we spend if we can find money someplace else. But if we have money left in a special article, you can't take it and put it someplace else. So if we put 15,000 in there and there's only 5,000 that gets spent on Sawyer Road prep, that $10,000 we have to collect in taxes because it's funded, but we can't spend it someplace else.
We just turn it in at the end of the year.
It just,
Yeah,
it
that makes
just
sense.
goes into fund
So
balance.
between now and next Friday, can you come up with a number?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably,
Because we're not meeting
Good
on
with
the
that number.
22nd, right?
We are not meeting next Monday, right?
Because it's Martin Luther King Day.
That's correct.
So that means that we have a budget meeting on the 22nd. I'm sorry, the 21st is Martin Luther King.
Yes.
But the 22nd, we have a budget meeting. So it'd be nice if we're gonna go forward with a change in that warrant article,
Yes.
if we make the change.
Yeah, yep,
beforehand.
yep. So I think we've got a work session on Friday.
I thought your preparation with Carol was great, especially where we can save if we do 2 projects.
Yes.
Paving projects and whatnot. And also a compliment to you with the CIP, members of the Budget Committee, you know, your advocacy and how you spoke about dirt roads and the additional costs. They agree that this is the year to get her done, as the cable guy would say, so.
Are you got any more?
Yes.
Okay, when you're done.
You have money in the budget to work with the police department on signs that need to be changed at the boat launches and all that?
yes, yep, I actually have that paperwork here. It's just a matter of calling it in. It's already been
And
basically,
what about signs
Okay.
for the Class 6 roads?
I have all that, all the prices.
Did
and
you see this?
quotes.
Did you see the new sign that was on the internet that talks about don't go by your GPS or whatever it is?
No, I have not seen that. Where would I find that?
Karen, you have it, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know, was that
Did-
something the selectmen decided on putting that? Or just the regular
Well, we
class
need-
6 signage?
Well, we needed some review on the cost of that sign to be made up.
Oh,
No, actually, we have costs.
We have costs on that?
Yep.
What has happened in last year, I'm aware of at least 4 incidents where people are going by their GPS and their maps and are going down these obviously unmaintained roads. And I'll go by Larry the cable guy, you can't fix stupid, but, you know, if it saves 1 or 2 of them from
Yeah,
getting buried.
yeah, I agree.
Lang Pond Road, your crew is not plowing Lang Pond Road.
No,
And someone is. I
Correct.
I do notice that they're plowing away from the lake, so thank you.
yeah.
What should we do with County Road and Lang Pond Road and these other roads? Should we put barrier tape up there or
Well,
what?
at the
I know
moment-
the person who was doing, County Road got spoken to.
That one seems to be good now because
Yes.
we've got a
Big
big
berm.
snowbank.
You put a berm there, yes.
So that one seems to be working.
And you did put a berm by Mrs. Greenwood's place, but I noticed someone broke through it. so-
I feel like there might be somebody that's not aware that they're not supposed to be doing that's what's happening.
Yeah. If you could work with the police department or with the neighbors and just
Yep.
Well, what we need to make people aware of is that if they damage the roads by plowing them, then they're responsible for the cost to repair the damage.
My feeling is too, is it's not being kept up to a standard that we're all used to, so they go out, if the cars see that it's plowed, and they go out there, but yet it hasn't been sanded, and they slide off the road, they're gonna come looking at us, wondering why we're not doing it correctly. 'Cause
Well,
they're not aware.
those roads are properly signed, okay, that with the fact that they're seasonally maintained. So from the standpoint of the town's responsibility, I think that's adequately covered. But what we don't want, and we saw this several years ago on County Road, is somebody goes through and plows, and by the way they're plowing, damages the road by creating a channel for water to run down and erode the road bed out. And I know we went back and looked at the law that governs this, and it's very clear that if somebody does undertake winter maintenance on a seasonal road on their own, that they bear the responsibility for repairing any damage that they do to the road. The other piece you got, which is people think, oh, it's plowed, I'm gonna go through here, and then they get in trouble. Yeah, I don't know that we can fix that, but to the extent that we can identify who's doing the plowing and make them aware that they're responsible for repairing any damage. Now, that then puts the responsibility on you, once it thaws, to inspect it. We gotta, and if there is damage, we've got to identify it and chase them off. But I think this board is happy to send a letter over our signatures to anybody that we identified as doing the plowing, and make them aware of that, how the law operates, and the responsibility that they're taking on by doing volunteer plowing. So if you know who it is, or if we can find out who it is, I think that's an appropriate way for us to move forward and say, hey, you're plowing, and while that's okay, while the law allows you to go in and plow for maybe to access their property or whatever, it also makes you responsible for any damage that might be done to the road as a result of the plowing. Make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
So, don't know if you have any idea who some of these volunteers are or not, but
Maybe putting an ad in the paper? Notice in the paper?
That would probably be a good way to
Just a
start.
thought.
mhm.
Speaking of plowing, is plowing my driveway and plowing the snow across the road a violation of the law? I was told it was a town ordinance, it's also a state law.
I believe it is. I believe we actually have covered that before. If you look at our snow plowing policy, I think it is written in our snow plowing policy, you're not supposed to push it.
It seems like it's gotten out of control, and being a snowplow operator myself in past years, and it freezes,
It can cause problems.
it causes problems. And I saw 2 instances that it wasn't almost an accident, but if the person coming down the road was going a little faster, just couldn't stop for the truck that was going, the private contract that was going across. Would it be appropriate for the selectmen to ask you and the police chief to enforce that law, or are you uncomfortable with that response?
I mean, obviously, I don't have any authority to, like the police officer, but I can certainly talk to people and say, it is an ordinance, you're not supposed to do
Or
it.
if you observe addresses where this is going on and bring them in, I think this board would be more than happy to send letters out to the property owner.
Sure.
Identifying that,
In the town that I worked in, this is how it was handled. The police officer got the information and spoke to the plow operator and spoke to the homeowner, and it went down as a warning, and it never happened again. And it
Yep.
took a couple of years to eradicate the problem, but, and I have no agenda here other than, yeah, I saw a couple of incidents that could have been.
Well, it does sometimes cost the town money, because if it gets frozen like that, and we can't plow, it starts to build on the road, we do have to go bring a backhoe down there and move it.
Yeah.
So if we could prevent it, that would be
But I
great.
wanted to go through you two department heads before this.
You know, maybe again, that could be added with a newspaper article or
There you go.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yep.
yep.
And it would be with both you department heads agreeing. The last thing I had to bring
And
up.
Melissa is taking copious notes today, so the headline on this week's article is
Above
going to
the
be.
fold.
Plowing problems in Tuftonboro, right? But
We
it's
asked,
it's a good way to get the word out,
Yeah.
and
I agree.
it's, it's convenient, particularly on a long lane, for somebody to say, well, I just plowed down and across the road. But you have the potential hazard crossing into traffic. You also have the situation where some plow drivers are more particular about making sure everything that they push out there gets off.
Yes.
And it's not just off the road, but it's got to be far enough off the road that it doesn't interrupt the flow of any material coming off the road going forward.
my last item, Chair. On December 8th, there was a $75 bill for state inspection Western Star dump truck. What inspection station did the inspection?
We had Don Goodrich do it for us.
Okay, and what inspection station was the truck taken to?
It's over on Route 16 near the Melton Village Marina. He has an actual station over there.
Yep. And was it put up on the lift and all the appropriate stuff checked out to your satisfaction?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you gotta keep in mind, the thing's still like brand new. It's
Yeah.
still low mileage. It is
Well-
essentially a brand new truck.
Well, you deserve a lot of credit for getting a $200,000 truck, and it served you well, so, it served the town well, so thank you. I noticed that there was no corresponding bills of anyone taking it over there or whatever, so I guess
That was me, I did
that was a
that.
Christmas present, right?
I don't charge the town for all the stuff that I do, so.
Thank you. I like that. Okay, I'm all set.
Okay, two other things then. First of all, we had brought up with Jack this morning driveway permits. Selectman Wood needs to have that tightened up a little bit so that we're aware of what kind of driveway permits are getting issued, where they're being issued. And I'm sure that your specifications for how a driveway is constructed are appropriate for the location,
All I'm supposed to do is request whether they need
culvert or
a
not.
culvert or not, and if there's a trench or whatever.
Right, it's because we want to keep the drainage on our roads, the public roads.
On the,
Oh, and the pitch, of course, too, but that's right on the permit itself.
Right.
So I guess
I
we'll
asked,
include you in the discussion when we get down to how do we keep the selectmen in the loop with regard to
Yep.
building permits and driveway permits. You know, how many driveways are we issuing for one lot, that sort of thing. So, because I know that I thought the policy was one driveway, but it seems to be different for different people.
I
Well,
was not aware that it was.
When we do driveway permits, do we work with the state guidelines in terms of site distances and that sort of thing?
I guess we just use common sense, and for the most part, it's
I mean, the
been,
sight lines are gonna be different on town roads than on a state highway because generally the
Speed.
speed limits are lower.
correct.
But,
well, what you're talking about, the mathematical formula is the line of sight is 100 feet for every 10 miles an hour.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know if that would work out on a lot of
No,
driveways.
that is
One acre lot, it's kind of hard to figure.
that is what it is for the state of New Hampshire. We just went through this on the road down by Holmberg's.
yeah, so,
That's a road coming into another road, that's a
Yes.
town road.
right,
That's
right, that's different.
That's an entrance onto a state highway.
But I think that's different than a driveway access onto a state highway.
No.
It's not.
Uh,
Same.
Same.
Is it the same?
They
Okay,
consider a town road a driveway.
Okay.
the driveway in.
Well, anyway,
We need to have a discussion about
Yeah.
driveways, I guess.
Yep.
Not today. The second item that I need to bring up is that, or we need to bring, is that we need you to go up Brown Road, take a look, see if there were additional rocks put in where the boat launch is.
I looked at it this morning.
Did you?
There is 3 additional rocks down there that were not there
There
when
are
we.
3.
Yeah, what it is, it looks like they continue the stone wall, 3
Right.
rocks out into the water.
Right.
Okay, so we need to get
And-
those removed.
Well,
Or somebody-
those were the ones that we've been talking about.
Yes.
But there was a rock that was placed on the edge of the road. Is that gone?
Yeah, I did not see it.
All right, and that was
I
one
didn't
that,
see it unless the snow covers it.
that was one that Tom and somebody else were able to move off the
Well,
edge.
I believe one of my guys went up at the backhoe and moved it, so.
Okay, so it's no longer in the right of way.
I was through there the other day, and a school bus was letting kids off, and there were cars coming both ways, and we had no problem. Traffic was not interfered with or impaired, so.
Well, I'm looking forward to, March, when those Bob houses that got put out there need to get put out there.
Yeah.
And they need to have some sort of exit ramp.
Yeah, and I do believe those 3 rocks are actually in the water, which
Yeah.
nobody owns.
Well, you do docks and waterfront property. I thought there had to be some type of state permission to put
Rocks.
rocks.
Yes. you'd have to
Once you go
determine.
past the high water mark, but maybe
That's
I'm
true.
missing something.
No, that's absolutely true.
Now, the other wrinkle is the new dam has gone in. I don't know if the state has set the new high water mark. They're underfunded, so.
Oh,
They're not shut down, so we'll probably get
you're
some
right.
information on them. At any rate, keep that in the back of your head, that one selectman at least is concerned about the people that are using Beach Pond for ice fishing, and they need to be able to get off there. So we're gonna move those rocks at some point in time, whether it's
It's a fair statement.
this week or next month. But I don't think we can, that is the public access to Beach Pond, and we can't have it blocked off so that the people who are using it as a public access
Can't access it
can't do
anymore.
their cleaning race houses off.
And I'm willing to move them whenever you tell me to, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Karen gave you a copy of the procurement policy that we're
Yes.
working on, and did you have any comments on that? And if you did they get fed back to Karen?
I read it, it seems fine.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
that makes sense.
All right. Anything else?
I think we're good.
All right,
All right,
thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
take care.
Happy New Year.
Yes.
Break for snow.
Yep.
Pray for snow.
Do we investigate going into non-public, or
Well,
how does that affect this camp?
I think that, I'd say let's,
Take a little break?
we could do that and then come back out of non-public if Candace's available, but.
Oh, that's right. We have an 11 o'clock.
Right, so
What I'm muttering about.
why don't we take a 5-minute break? We've been going for 2 hours. Somebody can use the restroom and that sort of thing. And we have a non-public session that we may do now or we may do a little later, so.
Do you have anything important to say? Other than that, I'll shut it down.
Well, we're gonna be working on budgets and revenue later, so I think,
I have the
That must
budget.
be a rhetorical question.
we never have anything important to say.
Okay, close it up, so you go into a non-public, I'm gonna shut it down and that will be it, and then Merry Christmas.
All right,
Fine.
How's that sound?
I move we take a break.
Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll second that motion.
Aye. Ah, feels good to stand up.